Hello everyone and welcome back. It's good to see you again. Today we're talking about Dune, but before we jump into that, I do want to remind you that if we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will talk about every single movie on this shelf. I know it's every video now, but not everyone watches every video, so I have to make sure each one of you guys know the challenge is on. It's up to you now. Dune was directed by Denis Villeneuve and stars a whole lot of people, like a lot. Like I could be here for minutes telling you about how many people are in this movie. And I have a lot to say. Not often do movies polarize me as much as this one did, because I'm like split down the middle. There's stuff I love, there's stuff I like, and there's stuff that I don't like. Let's start with the good. The atmosphere. The atmosphere is unreal. This movie really takes you to a whole other universe. The cinematography in this movie is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. They do an amazing job, and especially when they're trying to show scale by showcasing things in the foreground and background, it looks amazing. The sound, Hans Zimmer's score, somehow it sounds just like a Hans Zimmer score, but wholly unique from everything Hans Zimmer has already given us before. And it's chilling. All the acting all round is very good. Its dialogue is delivered in a very deliberate way, but with the job that the actors were assigned, they nailed it. Everything feels right in this world that we're presented with. However, I have to start talking about the bad now, and there's a fair bit. My biggest problem and my biggest issue with this movie is a lack of context. I never seen the original movie, I never read the book, I've gone into this completely blind, and going in completely blind, I should be able to understand the movie start to finish. And I understand the cliff notes, I understand these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, this is exactly what's happening, but I don't understand the value or importance of what it is that people are talking about. There's very little and sometimes no elaboration or context on things, and it makes it really hard to get into. The problem is that this is part one. The film opens with the titles part one. And it's not like you get half a movie and it builds up to a big bang, and then you have to wait and see what the second part is. No, it is more, the whole first movie is just the first act and maybe the start of the second act, and it doesn't really end with a bang, it just kind of ends where you'd feel like it's the middle of the movie. And it's hard to criticize a piece without seeing the whole picture of the piece. I haven't seen the ending. It's a really interesting universe, and I really want to love it. I want to get into it, but I don't understand everything. I don't have the full picture, and if after 2.5 hours of runtime I still can't understand everything and where it's going, I think I have to be a bit more specific, and I don't know if it's gonna kind of dip into spoiler territory, but the spice, for example, is super important to everybody. I don't know what the spice does. They kind of allude to spice being able to bend space, but why would you want to bend space? Like, there's no information, and the lack of information makes it very hard to understand the characters' motivations and reasons for doing the things they're doing. I'm also not a huge fan of the movie's pace. It's very slow, and slow burns aren't always bad if they have payoff, but because this is only half a story, it's 2.5 hours of slow burn to nothing. There are some cool sequences amongst that runtime, but the film ultimately builds to nothing. It builds to, you've got to see the second part to understand where it's going and how the movie ends. But I have to look at this as an individual film, as that experience. It's not fulfilling because you don't even have closure for anything. I do want to mention that my opinion could very much change after I see the second film later this year, so be sure to subscribe. I might even regrade this movie in that video after it's been recontextualized. I'm sorry if I'm upsetting anyone, because this film seems to be unanimously loved, and I just couldn't get into it the way that you guys did. I wanted to mention that while this movie is shot very beautifully, it's got a very desaturated color palette, almost like a high action, if that's even a way of describing it, kind of color palette. And from just how creative this universe is and its ideas, I wish that it popped a tad more on screen. But again, without the context of the book and what it's even supposed to be, maybe this is 100% faithful, I don't know. The costumes, I'm also not really into. They're very over-designed look. The outfits just didn't seem like anything new, at least to me. If we look at one of the white costumes in one of the visions that's supposed to happen in the future, they're almost indispensable from any other thing that Marvel has done lately. Like, it's no different to me. Speaking of that scene, the CGI is 50-50. Sometimes it looks so good that it's close to Avatar 2 levels, but then you have that scene like the Vision in the future, where it's a lot of them in white suits flipping around and it looks janky. There's definitely something really cool here, and I'm missing it, and I'm annoyed that I'm missing it. But if after 2.5 hours you can't properly give me context and understanding, then I feel like as a movie, not as the entire franchise of Dune and what it could be after having a second part, but as just this singular movie, it's failing. But while saying that, the film is masterfully done. It's extremely well shot and executed, and it is exactly what it's supposed to be, and maybe with the context of the book, it's phenomenal. I just don't know. Apparently the lore to this universe is extremely expansive and deep, and it would be just too hard to explain in one movie. I've heard that Dune lends itself more to a serialized TV show rather than a 2-part movie, because the story from what I've heard is that if you wanted to make a faithful Dune movie, it would have to be 10 hours, and I've only had 2.5 and I'm still playing catch up. But with saying what I have, I shouldn't have to read the book to understand the adaptation. The point of the adaptation is to take what the book has and translate it to the screen for us to be able to view. For me, it's all on part 2 coming later this year. If part 2 is great, it could make this whole experience well worth it. If it flops, then no matter how good aspects of this movie are, a movie that is essentially just 2.5 hours of setup is not going to be able to save it. I know we're in an age where you either love something or you hate something, but I'm very, very mixed. I can't give you a definitive answer on my opinion because the film won't give me an ending, and that's not satisfying. For me, Dune is going to get a light 7. There's a lot of sand. Anakin would hate it. I want to love it, but if you just had 30 seconds to explain who these people are, why they're here, what the spice even does, then it could have made this a much more enjoyable experience, at least for me. But have you seen Dune? What did you guys think? You guys might have loved it, and that is fantastic. I wish I did. I might just have to watch it a second time. This actually was my first viewing. I missed it when it came out. Life, it happens. But I feel like come part 2 later in the year, I can give you a more definitive video on my thoughts. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing for when I review Dune 2, and so I can finally tell you my thoughts, because my thoughts are currently incomplete. Also consider dropping a like if you liked this video. You might not, because I'm not overly optimistic about it, but at least I'm giving you something different. And as always guys, if you've made it through to the end of the review, you're a bloody legend, and hopefully I'll catch you guys next time. Bye guys. Oh, by the way, postscript, I got something really cool on the way, so subscribe, hang around. Alright, that's all. Stay safe, guys. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.